Hello everybody, this is a video review of the 2012 Triumph Tiger 800. They call it the road model, or the roadie, as you may have seen it on the internet. So I've had this motorcycle for about a year and 2 months now, so I wanted to do a quick review just for anyone who may be considering this bike, and just to give you my perspective on what I think about it so far. So I'll start off with a little bit of a background about myself just as a rider, just to kind of give you a data point to compare against. I am 27 years old. I have been riding for about 4.5 years now. This is my third motorcycle at this point. I previously had a 2012 BMW G650 GS Sertao model. And then before that, I had a Yamaha FZ6, kind of like a sport bike. I had that BMW for a little over 2 years before this, and I had the Yamaha FZ6 for about a year before that. I would still consider myself a novice rider, maybe somewhere between novice and intermediate. I still have a lot of experience to gain, but that is just my perspective and kind of my background in giving this review. So the first thing I'll start off with, and I have a little agenda, if you will, here. I wanted to start off talking about just the comfort and ergonomics of this motorcycle, because that's the primary reason I sold my BMW and got this, is because that BMW with a single cylinder 650cc thumper engine, it just had a little bit too much vibration for my liking, especially on the highway when you're going to be on the highway for a couple hours at a time, and that vibration just got to me, and I wanted something a little bit smoother. So certainly the engine helped smooth it out, and I'll talk about the engine in a little bit. But the seat is excellent. It's a two-part seat. You can kind of see the lighter gray section back there for your passenger. That is removable, and there's a small tool compartment beneath that. And then the main rider seat here, it is two position, variable position up and down. I currently have it in the low position. Not that I'm a short rider, I'm about 6 foot even, but just I prefer the more better planted feet whenever I put them down. And generally, if I do go on a longer trip on the highway, I'll raise it up just to give my legs a little bit more room. But the seat is excellent. The windshield here, that's actually not something that came on it from the factory. I am the second owner of this motorcycle. The previous owner put on this Jivy Airflow adjustable windscreen on it. The stock windscreen is pretty similar to the secondary screen here. You hear reports all over the internet that the stock screen is pretty terrible. So I can't really give a review of what the stock screen was like. but certainly with a aftermarket screen, it is excellent. The airflow hits me in this lower position right at the top of the helmet, so it's really not too bad. Another thing about comfort is the handlebars. They are fairly comfortable, set up from stock. They do not have any risers on them, as you see a lot of other adventure bikes do. I don't ride very much at all off-road, so I don't have any need to stand up for long periods of time. If I had to say one thing I wanted to improve about the handlebars is maybe sweep them back a little bit more. I find that after a couple hours, I feel like I'm kind of reaching to the controls a little bit, so maybe something with a little bit more sweep, or perhaps you could just turn the bar, rotate it towards the rider a little bit more, and get some more comfort that way. But like I said, extremely comfortable motorcycle to ride short and long trips. Very nice saddle, good ergonomics, good windscreen. Again, can't really say anything about the stock windscreen, but certainly an aftermarket windscreen would improve that comfort. Next item I wanted to discuss was just the engine. So you've probably heard a lot of comments about this engine if you've been looking at this motorcycle, and that's really the gem of this Tiger. It's a 3-cylinder triple 800cc inline 3, if you want to call it that. But this thing has so much character. I cannot say enough good about this triple engine in here. It is extremely fun. It has a great sound. It has a sound unlike any other motorcycle I've ever heard before. Very smooth, like I was saying. That's one of the main reasons I got this motorcycle, is because I wanted an engine that was nice and smooth, and this engine is just purrs right along at every single RPM. If there was anything bad to say about the engine, it's that the power comes on a little bit late, usually in the mid to high RPM range, so don't expect something with a ton of grunt way down low. That's just not how this engine is made to run. The torque and the power really kicks in once you get up into the mid to high RPM range, and then it just takes off. It's excellent. It has a awesome induction intake sound through the airbox, which is basically right between your legs underneath the back end of the seat, so you get a great sound with that. And then the exhaust note is awesome, especially once it's in the upper RPM range. Like I said, the engine is unlike anything I've ever heard before. Very unique to these triple engines, but I cannot say enough good things about it. The mileage is pretty decent. I ride it not very super conservatively, but also I don't thrash it, and I get about 40 to 42 miles per gallon. And there is a gauge on the instrument cluster telling you what your average miles per gallon is. Now on to the suspension. So again, because I'm a fairly novice rider still, I can't really say I can feel a whole lot of difference between different motorcycle suspensions thus far. I mean, I can compare them to the previous motorcycles I had, and I can just kind of give you my general feeling about it. Up front, it is a upside down fork with some decent travel on the front forks. The fronts are non-adjustable, and then in the rear you just have a standard monoshock that I believe the only adjustment there is the see that little slotted screw point in there. I believe that is to adjust the compression damping of it. I could be wrong about that, so excuse me if that's not correct, but limited adjustability. But you know, for my needs, which is weekend warrior type rider, commuting back and forth to work, you know, going on a couple hour rides on the weekends, maybe, you know, once or every 2 months or so. I don't put a whole lot of miles on my bike, but it's adequate, I would say. you know, it doesn't have very good small bump compliance, and I'm not sure what that is caused by. It almost feels like there's some stiction high resistance on the front fork initially as you go over a bump, but then it progressively softens up just a little bit. The rear is pretty vanilla, pretty plain. I mean, it soaks up the bumps just fine. If anything, the front and rear is on the stiff side compared to a lot of bikes that come out with just super soft suspension. You know, if you were to take this bike off-road with it having a little bit stiffer suspension, that would actually be to your advantage, knowing that it wouldn't bottom out quite as easily. And then on the road, you know, if you are going to be pushing the suspension, again, it's a little bit better to have that stiffness rather than having it be super soft and dive all the time. The front brake doesn't dive too badly, again, compared to like my BMW 650 GS, which had tremendous amount of front end brake dive. This is really nothing out of the ordinary. So next I'll go ahead and talk about the brakes. This is an area that I'm really not too impressed about on this motorcycle. The brakes, they don't have a lot of strength or feel. Again, I'm the second owner of this motorcycle, and I don't know really what kind of pads they have in it. I do know that if you really want to get on it really hard, or if you have to make an emergency stop, you do have to clamp down on the front brake pretty hard. And same thing, you got to stand on the back brake decently hard to get it to come to a stop in a hurry. I don't know if this is something that you can address simply with some new pads. I have bled the brakes on this bike since I've had it, and that didn't seem to do a whole lot. But again, they're adequate. They're dual rotor up front, single rotor in the back. The bike is equipped with ABS brakes, and you can turn that off through the instrument cluster up next to the speedometer, and that does come back on when you do restart the motorcycle, I'm pretty sure, just as a safety feature. But yeah, they're Nissan calipers. They do a decent job. Again, I'm not really pushing the bike too hard and going into turns too hot or anything like that. So they work out for me, and I might change the pads once these existing pads wear out and see if maybe that'll help a little bit. So next I'd like to talk about the instruments and the controls and kind of the electronics of this bike. I would say that in general they are dated, but they work, they're practical, they give you everything you need. Nothing fancy. Again, this is a 2012 bike, so it doesn't have the latest and greatest of everything, but it's got more than, you know, some decades old bike. You got your kill switch right here for the engine, your starter button, adjustable lever for your front brake. It is a cable actuated throttle. And then over here on the left side, you have the high and low beam switch right here, your turn signals, horn, and then I'll come around to the other side, and there is a passing switch, and what that does is if you hold it down, it just turns on your high beams. I never really use that because I don't want to give other drivers the wrong idea about what I'm trying to do. This does not come from the stack factory. It is a spot trace GPS unit. Nor does this. This is just a ambient air temperature gauge. Down here on the ignition key, it is currently in the P position on all the way on the left hand side for your parking lights. And what that does is it turns on this main bulb right here between your two front headlights, and I believe it turns on your tail light as well. Yep, turns on your LED tail light. And then just above that is your steering lock. But I'll go ahead and turn on the ignition. Here's the startup sequence. So it shows you the odometer at first, and then you'll see that little wrench icon underneath of the time. You saw it said -999. That is the service Reminder that the previous owner did not reset that. I really don't need service all that soon. You'll see on the left-hand side you have your coolant temperature. On the right-hand side you have a fuel gauge with several bars. I find that to be fairly accurate. Left-hand side you have, top left-hand side you have your clock. And then you have your 2 buttons here. So what is being displayed right now is your average mile per gallon. So if you click this bottom button once, well, I thought I knew what I was doing. So I'm going to click this top button, see if that cycles through it. That's just trip 2, setup. You see, I clearly know how to use this. Alright, so this one, okay, average miles per hour. This is your miles on your current trip. This is miles until empty on your gas tank, so 179. That is the total minutes of your current trip since you last reset it. Again, average miles per gallon. Current miles per gallon, that's what this is. Sorry, there is no null symbol next to that MPG. Sorry, there seems to be something on my display screen here. So average miles per hour. Total miles on that trip, miles till empty, trip time, average miles per gallon. So I typically leave it on this just so I can see if I can improve that. Then you have your speed over there, and then your tachometer showing your RPM here. Speaking of electronics and controls, I'll go ahead and get into the lights here. Dual front headlights, I think they're actually pretty good compared to some other bikes I've ridden. Both of them are on all the time, and then when you switch your high beam on, both of them just get brighter. So I will go ahead and do that for you. So probably can't tell too much on the video, but that's your high beam. So very visible on the roadway. Got clear lens over your amber turn signal bulbs. Again, just kind of your standard turn signals you see on a lot of bikes, standard size and shape. And then on the rear here you have an LED tail light that is nice and bright, so that's a nice feature. Again, same kind of clear lenses on your rear turn signals, and then the amber bulbs. Something weird that I've found with this bike is the turn signal stalks right here. Several of these have actually cracked on me and broken. That's something that's pretty common on these Tigers, at least in the early years they're being developed. Do not get the Triumph brand turn signal stalks because they are a fortune. There's actually a Honda model that uses these exact same ones, and they're like $5 for a pack of 4. So go ahead and get you a set of those, and it'll last you a while until you can sort through all of the broken turn signal stalks. So before I wrap up this video, I did just want to let you all know about the things that I have added, or rather the things that are not stock on this bike from the factory. Like I said previously, this GV Airflow windshield, adjustable windshield, that was something the previous owner put on. Again, you can raise it up and down. That's a huge help, especially in the wintertime, keep some of that cold air off of you. These hand guards, these are just the hand guards off of a XC model Tiger, so they bolt right up. I just put those on there again to protect my hands during the wintertime from the cold air, and also I just like the look. These rigid LED lights with the amber cover, it's actually more of a yellow light on there, again just to make myself more visible. So that's something that I added. Of course, this top box did not come on it from the factory. This is another GV product. It is just a GV top case that the previous owner put on it. I got the Triumph tank bag. Your gas tank lid is just underneath there, so this comes off. It has 2 buckles and then a magnet in the back, so that is very handy. It is expandable. And then you've probably noticed that all the Roadie 800 models do not come with this front beak. the XC models do. That's just something that I wanted on there. I like adventure bikes and the styling, and just got to have a beak to make it look right. And honestly, I think it kind of looks like an angry bird or something like that with that beak on there, with those headlights and that beak. It's like it wants to come and attack you. So those are the things that I've added so that you won't be surprised that you feel like if you're looking for this bike and doesn't have it, it should have come with it. No, fortunately, those are the things that you got to get on your own. So to wrap this video up, overall I'd say I really like the bike. I'm really enjoying it after having it for a year and 2 months now. You know, I'm constantly looking at different bikes just because I'm curious and seeing what they have to offer. And you know what? This really is a jack of all trades. Has a nice amount of power, not too much. You know, for a fairly novice rider like me, the power doesn't come on until later in the RPM range, so you can't get in all that much trouble in case you hit a bump or something and it makes you turn your wrist on the throttle. Extremely comfortable bike, well equipped with all your electronic rider aids. It does not have the stability control or the traction control, the rider modes. What I mean by that is all the different things it measures on the instrument cluster. ABS brakes, so that's a nice feature to have, nice and safe. I think it's a good looking bike. I always think that Triumphs do put a lot of effort into their styling. You're pretty visible, got good lights front and rear, even just the stock lighting, not counting the LED lights I have on it now. Good availability to put a passenger on the back, nice comfortable seat for the passenger and the rider. Lots of luggage options if you wanted to put side cases on here, or soft luggage or luggage racks. And because this is a sibling to the XC model, there's plenty of things you can do to it to make it more off-road worthy. You can put crash bars on the side to protect your flanks of your engine. You can put a better skid plate on there. It's just got a stock plastic skid plate on it now. If you're like me and you don't have all that much confidence riding off-road, but you just want to take that dirt road you see as you're going down the country road and see where it goes, this is plenty adequate as long as you ride within reason. I even have pretty street oriented tires. These are the Michelin Aniki 3s, so I'm not really going to be doing anything extreme off-road, but this thing will take you anywhere as long as you ride within your limits and the limits of the bike. So there's plenty of things you can do to it, and I would highly recommend it. So thanks for watching this video. Hopefully it helped you make an informed decision or just find out a little bit more about this bike. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave it in the comments below. Thanks for watching.